change. I don't know what will happen. It's not the most important thing in the world. It's not the most important thing in accessibility. I happen to think that we would do better one way than the other. But the whole world is welcome to this discussion, and the whole world will decide whether I'm crazy or whether I'm right. Another area that's really tricky. When you write a web application, you assume people use a mouse, right? That's how everyone uses the web. They click on things. We had some compatibility problems with Gmail when it was first produced. Because Opera is has a record as a very keyboard-friendly browser. We had lots of keyboard users. And they'd try to navigate around Gmail, and they couldn't. And we scratched our heads and looked at it, and you can click on anything you want. It works. It turned out that for a while, what they were doing at Google was drawing some text in blue and some text in black, and then listening for a click anywhere on the page, and calculating what text you'd clicked on. So if you didn't click on the text, if you tried to move around the keyboard, it just didn't work. The web has more devices on it than ever. When I was a young, going to be a web designer, the big argument was, do you have to design for screens that are 640 by 480 pixels, as well as the new, exciting 800 by 600 pixel high-resolution screen? Should you support both of these devices? That was it. That was device independence. Cross-platform design was Netscape and Windows. Sorry, Netscape and Explorer. Today, how many people have a phone that can't access the web? Does anyone have a phone that you cannot use a web browser on? Now, I'm assuming that, who's got an iPhone? iPhones. All the people with Apples? Not quite. Who's got an Android phone? Lots of Androids here. Who's got a UIQ phone? There's one in every bunch. We've got more devices than we've ever had before. And some of our devices have touch input. And some of our devices have motion sensing. And some of our devices have keyboards. Who's got a phone with a keyboard? Like, whose phone has a proper keyboard? A bunch of people. Whose phone is a touch screen? So, working out how you get input from the user can be complicated, right? The way we do it right now is we add more and more and more and more events to listen for. We check for clicks and touches and double touches and accelerometer events and keyboard events, and then we discover that people have different keyboards, so we try and figure out what keyboard they have and write 50 different code paths for 50 different keyboards. This has been a failure. It doesn't work that way. So we need to do something new. We're going to get more devices. We have Nintendo Wiis. We have things you can talk to. HTML5 has an element called command. It's actually a really cool idea. It basically says you can have something, it can have an access key, it can have a shortcut behavior, and the device will work out how the user is going to activate that. So you create the command element, You use that as a trigger for some function in your game or in your interface or in whatever it is you're developing, and you leave the click, touch, lick, shake, talk to question to the device, instead of actually having to write 70 pages of JavaScript trying to guess what input methods the user might have on their device and getting it wrong. And there's another reason why getting rid of all of that script and all of that complication is good. Has anyone ever run out of batteries on their telephone? And it happens from time to time. And it turns out that when you have no batteries, it's not really a phone, it's just a very expensive lump in your pocket. The more JavaScript processing you do, the faster you run out of batteries. The more errors we have to correct in the browser, the faster we burn the battery. The more processing, the faster we burn the battery. So, making these things simpler for developers makes them simpler for browsers, which makes them work better for users in the most simple way: their phone keeps running instead of turning off. I'm actually going to skip Canvas accessibility because we don't have very much time. Canvas, I'll show you a canvas. This is Canvas. This is a piece of HTML and JavaScript that was written over a weekend by a 16-year-old kid who we hired at Opera afterwards. It's used for games. Its benefit is it's very, very fast. Right? JavaScript, modern JavaScript, is extremely fast. You can write applications in JavaScript and HTML instead of making them native, because the speed now means you don't care if they're native apps. Canvas gives you very fast graphics to go with those, but it's complicated for doing things like accessibility. And I'm going to stop there and leave all of 4 minutes, I think, for questions. So there are no foolish questions. This is my email address in case you're too shy to ask one now. I may or may not know the answer anyway. But with that, thank you very much. 谢谢。
谢谢各位，也谢谢 Charles 带来那么精彩的演讲。在各位出去抢食物之前呢，有一件事情跟各位报告。如果请检查一下你手上的那个 badge， 如果你的便当券没有在里面的话。